There's a lot happening in the world right now. If you're trying to get into contracting, maybe you're thinking about the different tax rules and regulations, or possibly you're thinking about all of this crazy change that's happening with AI and tech right now. If you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious, it's okay. A lot of us are feeling that way, and it's very normal to feel it. So today we're going to be talking about navigating the tax regulations that exist within a contracting world, and also how AI is affecting people like you and me. We're going to cut through all of the noise and get straight to it. We're really going to focus on what's happening right now and how it affects you and what you can do about it. If you want to see more videos tailored around contracting and portfolio careers, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this. And if you don't know who I am already, my name is Tabirade. I essentially help people like you, professionals like you, navigate through this changing world so that you can really flourish in the portfolio career that you create and build. Now, of course, as always, to help you on your journey towards getting that new contract and navigating some of this stuff, I've put together a contracting checklist that you can download below. So if you're interested in this, make sure to click the link below to get that free checklist. So first off, what is IR35? Now, I've done plenty of videos on this stuff, but let me give you a quick refresher. So IR stands for Inland Revenue. That used to be the department for the government that dealt with tax, and now it's HMRC. And so essentially IR35 defines off-payroll rules. In essence, it really classifies a contractor to see whether they should pay tax, such as an employee would pay tax, or whether they should be taxed like a business. And so it really comes down to the type of work that you're doing. So again, if you're doing things independently, if you don't need a hiring manager, if you can subcontract different people, if you're ordering your own kit, there are various different criteria that are at play, then you're deemed as off payroll, or at least outside of IR35, should I say. So ignore the off payroll part, but you are outside of IR35. It means that you don't pay tax similar to an employee, but you get taxed like a business. But if you do have a hiring manager that you report to, or line manager, should we say, and let's say, for example, you have to clock in at a certain time and they send you a laptop and all that kind of stuff there, then you are inside of IR35, i.e. you'll get taxed the same way as an employee will get taxed. And so really and truly, that's the distinction between the two types of IR35 or tax. Now, this has caused a lot of aggravation because, number one, there is this whole idea that, well, if you're taxed inside of IR35, yet you know the work that you're doing should be an outside role, so to speak, then it kind of gets annoying because really and truly, you're making less money. You're disincentivizing the opportunity for the contractor to essentially want to do the contracting because, again, all the money is going through tax. Now, there's no problem with paying tax at all. I think it's good for us to pay tax, but there definitely needs to be a proportionate amount that makes sense to incentivize individuals to want to start some of this stuff. Now, with IR35, it really comes down to the fact that in 2021, small to medium enterprises or businesses make the decision on whether a contractor should be inside or outside of IR35. Why is this important? Well, this is important because if they're making the decision, they don't want to get it wrong. And if they do get it wrong and HMRC are like, hey, can we do a quick audit and check? And they see actually these individuals should be inside of IR35 rather than outside, then that enterprise is going to get a heavy fine. They're going to get fined. And so to prevent that, what a lot of these organizations have done, mainly public sector ones, I can't really speak for the private, is that they've just done a blanket inside IR35 status for these different contractors. And so people are wrongly within this space, or some of them are at least anyway, because of fear of being taxed, or not even taxed, fined, shall I say. So this is where you have that issue. This is where you have that challenge. And this is where there is a frustration from contractors at the moment. So people come to me all the time and say, how do you find outside IR35 contracts? It's not always a straight answer. And really, it really comes down to some of the following. If you're doing work that's below a certain threshold, if it's going to be below £10,000 or £50,000, certain public sector organizations or private sector organizations have financial, let's say, rules that will trigger a procurement. So if it's below that, then you can kind of do a gentleman's agreement, do a statements of work, and you can get paid a certain way. You don't have to go through all these channels. If it's over that threshold, then what ends up happening is it has to be competitive by nature. based on procurement rules. And so the best people to speak to are commercial leads and procurement individuals, and or the economic buyer, so to speak, the person who holds the strings, to understand whether you fall inside or outside of these rules, thereby making it easier for you to get a specific type of contract. I say this all to say that outside of IR35 can be hit and miss at times in terms of finding these contracts. There may be some organizations, i.e. recruiting agencies, that specify and or sort of dedicate their time towards getting outside contracts. And actually, some do a good job in making sure that it's specifically outside, but others don't really care because it doesn't make a huge difference to them in that way. And so I'm saying this to say the system has now been designed in such a way where people are fearful to enable outside of IR35 contracts because of the paperwork and the potential fines, etc., etc. But they are out there. They're definitely out there because there are organizations that are confident in ensuring outside IR35 status. And of course, there are situations where you as the contractor can be that individual that educates them and actually gives them the confidence to say, hey, this should be outside IR35 and because of this, that, and that, and that. This is usually highlighted in your proposal statement. But yes, I'm kind of going off the point. Now, with this in mind, does this affect the contractor market? Yes, in some ways. For those old school contractors who are used to getting outside of IR35 contracts, they're like, there's no point doing inside because I might as well be working, which is understandable, okay? If the flexibility element is not necessarily emulated culturally in the organization that you're working for, or to, should I say, then I can see why people are like, might as well just work. And so what ends up happening is you get less contractors in the market. You get less supply to meet demand, should we say. What's also happening is that AI is becoming a factor, okay? And AI is not here to take over completely yet, but it is here to enable contractors, permanent members of staff, to essentially make their work more efficient and effective. And so when we're thinking about all of this stuff, it means that actually, if you're not equipped the right way professionally in terms of your contractor expertise, and if you're not au fait with the AI world, okay, then you're going to miss out because there's going to be one person who's doing 2 or 3 jobs effortlessly because they've been in the game for a while and or because they understand how to leverage AI. So the question then becomes, are you well positioned? Do you have the skills? Do you have the competencies to basically survive in a contracting space, in a consulting space? Now, what I will say is you've got a choice, okay? Now, you could sort of like worry about inside and outside and all that kind of stuff there. And that's understandable because let's say, for example, you have a family or you've got really big projects that you need to sort of like set up. And maybe inside doesn't work because you're not you're scared about security and all of this kind of stuff there, which is understandable. But obviously, this comes down to what you're comfortable doing and the mindset that you have at the time, because contracting is not for the faint-hearted. It's not. If you have the mindset of, well, I'm in this space, whether I'm inside, whether I'm outside, whether I'm freelance, whether I'm doing a procurement, whether I'm bolted onto a consultancy, whether I'm finding leads on social media, whether I'm really approaching things via marketplace, it kind of doesn't matter. I'm in this space. And actually, as AI becomes a thing, how can I utilize AI to leverage my work, but also use it as a solution and implementation for some of these organizations? Yeah, if you're public sector, maybe a bit slow to do some of that stuff. Maybe you have to go down sort of the route of learning things like Agile project management or Microsoft Azure or AI for the government, because now ChatGPT has produced or OpenAI, should I say, has produced a government or public sector focused package for them. So maybe there is something in that. But what I'm saying is, it's less about inside and outside and more about the freedom to move, the networks that you develop, the opportunities in that way. And so for the second type of person, what they're seeing is, actually, I'm growing depth just by being here. For the amount of time that I'm here, I'm growing depth and I'm not necessarily worrying about this stuff. In the meantime, I'm not going to do anything crazy to overexert what I have financially. I'm not going to be spending like crazy. I'm going to be putting money away. I'm going to be making sure that I'm trained. I'm going to be ensuring that I reflect upon my experiences and the things that I can provide and articulate when it comes to new opportunities. I'm going to be networking with individuals and connecting with them, more importantly, so they know what my job status is and they understand my values, so that if it comes to a certain specific time, I can lean on them if need be to present opportunities to me. I'm going to extend my contracts. I'm going to see how I can provide even more value when it comes to this stuff. If my contract ends and I can't find anything else, I'm going to use the fact that actually there's still money on a purchase order because I've taken time off, and so the full purchase order hasn't been established, and therefore maybe I can do part-time until I find something else. There are options. It's how you think about it. And so when we think about all of this stuff, we start to realize that we have a choice, like I said. Do we want to be this person who is creating the opportunities, even if it isn't necessarily the one we want right now? Or are we going to say, actually, I don't want this headache. Let me just stick to what I know, even though I know this isn't necessarily secure, but it feels securer than what this contracting world is saying. So what am I saying? What I'm specifically saying to you is look at your specific industry or niche. Check to see what contracting opportunities there are. And of course, you can filter for outside IR35 opportunities first because they're still there. And this is if you're looking at job boards, marketplaces, etc., etc. Okay. Now, if you do not see these things and you've exhausted your contacts, you've spoken to previous hiring managers, you've spoken one-to-one with recruiters, do not ignore inside. You're still getting paid. It's still part of your core bucket. What you should be doing, or could be doing, should we say, is not just relying on the contracting money. How else are you making money? How else are you building those opportunities? Sometimes it's talking to the stakeholder confidentially about how you can provide value because you've understood the game. Sometimes it's about messaging people online, doing the cold outreach. Okay, it's a numbers game. Finding those different types of people, knowing the list. Sometimes it's also about being the advisor for startups or invested companies and actually showing that you are the main person to go to. And that's how you find those additional type of contracts. Or sometimes it's setting up some sort of community or coaching or selling products and services, B2C, that helps people like you succeed in your industry. Of course, this shouldn't take over the core thing that you're doing right now because it's your bread and butter. But over time, if you put enough sweat equity into it, it starts to do that. And this is where AI starts to leverage things and help you. So the first thing you need to do is, number one, be very clear about what opportunities exist. And even before that, you need to know where you're finding these opportunities. For your industry and for your experience, is it going to be a network? Is it going to events? Is it a specific marketplace? Is it a specific job board? Is it certain type of recruiters? What is it? It's not just one thing. Speaking to people increases the opportunities for sure. It's not just one thing. So this is about strategy. What is the main way in which you need to do this? Once you've decided what that is, you need to then specifically decide or work out and find and search what opportunities exist. So is this a freelance opportunity? Is this an inside of IR35 opportunity? And you can calculate this stuff. Again, I've got a contracting calculator. There should be links below for more information on that. And then is it outside of IR35? Because if you know what it is and you can calculate roughly how much you would make net, taking into consideration, roughly taxes and other expenses, then you're nice. The next step is, whilst you're finding these opportunities and stuff, you have to bear in mind there are certain things that need to be on point. So professionally, your processes, frameworks, and IP needs to be up and running. So what specific processes do you have in place to help support you deliver work? Do you have any templates and/or methodologies that you're following that are going to help you? How can AI support you in this? Maybe it's for note-taking. Maybe it's for assistance and brainstorming. Maybe it's for generating templates or writing emails. Of course, you're still going to have the human factor, but how is it helping you in this space? And finally, you have to consistently learn. Embrace the learning element. What I mean by that is when you do get that contract, or even if you don't get a contract and you're still looking for stuff, journaling helps. The way I journal now is I just speak into my phone and record what I'm saying. Provided I am using something called Voice Note app, and it has AI attached to it, so it can do deep dives, categorize, all that kind of stuff there, which is really good. I'm not thinking about it, I'm just speaking. It does the heavy lifting for me. And so if you can utilize opportunities, whether you're in a contract or not, to basically talk about your learnings, that's going to be key. That's going to be fundamentally key, I'm telling you. So embrace learning and utilize not just AI, but other things into your contracting space as well. Now, I'm not saying all of this stuff because it's fun to say or whatever it may be. I'm saying it because I've done this myself. You know, I got to a point where I realized that actually it's not about inside, outside, it's whatever comes my way. And actually, what I really valued in terms of an end value is choice, is the opportunity, is a sense of autonomy. Albeit, of course, if you are outside of IR35, you get more autonomy relative to inside. But that culture can still be developed being an inside of IR35 contractor depending on where you're at. And that's not a guarantee. Depends on your position, depends on the culture, depends on who you are as a person as well. It just means tax-wise, you're not there, but you're setting up for the outside world, outside IR35 world. Or with the AI element, I am not going to be naive to the fact that AI is doing its thing. It's organizing, it's learning, it's brainstorming, it's collating, it's doing everything. And so I want to be close by. I want to see what the hype is about and see if it can help me. You understand? So hopefully you're doing the same. Maybe ChatGPT 5 is enough for you. Maybe Gemini Pro is great for you. Maybe the Claude's doing it for you. Whatever it is, utilize it. But beyond just utilizing it for, chat prompts and generative AI, there is so much that you can do. And I would not be scared to explore this space because there will be a point in time, whether we're here for it or not, where actually plug the OpenAI model or Gemini model into a bot, well-functioning robot or Android, then it's game over, my friends. But until then, it doesn't need to be. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you are looking to start up in this contracting space, then check out my contracting checklist. And if you want to do some calculations when it comes to inside or outside of IR35 contracts, then check out my contract calculator where you can utilize that and do some quick calculations as well. If you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, contracting, and this whole world of careers, I guess, then feel free to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.